What is going on, Don Mafia? Welcome to yet another edition of the Don Mafia Report. Very excited. I have two very special guests from #sports that are going to help us break down exactly what the Bills offense needs to do to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And guys, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Hey, what's going on? I'm Paul, one of the two at #sports. Mario and I have been at this for a little while. And it's normally we spend a lot of time on YouTube, so very, very happy to be doing another collaboration with yet another YouTuber. Love the show, and we're just here to kind of break things down. We get a little heat because we try to be as objective as possible. Not going to say we don't get a little heat for that. Not always the best look.
Talking about this week, Paul, when we were starting to talk about Mr. Brian Dable and Mr. Josh Allen. Yeah, that's
I am.
You want a hot button topic in Buffalo, yeah. So yeah, what's up, Don Mafia? Yeah, it's Paul, you're incorrect. Okay, it's content creator. It's not YouTuber. Okay, so I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's great to be here talking with Dan about what the Buffalo Bills need to do offensively. I'm really excited to see what the Bills offense has to do offensively to try to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles and run the record to 6-1.
Yeah, most definitely. And by the way, guys, say that you're not subscribed to #sports, then definitely do it. In fact, I normally watch all of their drive-through videos. That's what you guys call them, right? It's the drive-through videos.
We have various spinoffs for each day. So one day it'll be the Sunday Drive, it'll be Cruise Control, it'll be Road Rage. We got a bunch of different episodes depending on the mood,
I love it.
The mood in the car. We'll title those appropriately for our show.
And so that Brian Dable video that y'all did, that was a Road Rage episode, right?
You know what? It should have been. I didn't title it.
It should have been.
It definitely should have been.
And so Paul was pissed, man. Trust me. Paul was very upset during that entire thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was the very PC version of the things that I wanted to say.
Man.
Yeah, we like to be conscious of the fact that people like to advertise on a YouTube channel. So
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So yeah, guys, like I said, this episode, what I really wanted to do was just have us sort of break down exactly what we think that the Bills need to do to beat the Eagles on an offensive standpoint. Really just thinking about it, and definitely feel free to chime in, guys. We are actually in a very, very good position. While I know that Mr. Dable does not like to run the ball as much as he certainly should, the playbook that he is currently running, this is probably one of the best positions that we will be in due to the fact alone that the Eagles secondary is struggling tremendously. In fact, I'm pretty sure I was reading last week against the Cowboys, and maybe even it was an average. Like, definitely correct me if I was wrong, but they're like releasing something like 77% as far as allowing passes to be caught within the secondary, and it's going for an average of like 9.8 yards per pass. So, I mean, I think that that's going to be a huge indicator on how we can actually go out in front and just hit them in the face, ready to go.
That would be nice. If the Bills could start fast in one of these games, I think that would be great. I know Paul's seething over there because you mentioned the name Brian Dable, and I'll let him get to that in a second. But
I love it.
The one reservation I think Bills fans should take, and I'm not trying to gain enemies here. I'm not trying to gain Don Mafia enemies here, but you got to think about it. When the Buffalo Bills went to play the Tennessee Titans, the trio of Logan Ryan, Malcolm Butler, and Kenny Vaccaro, they were allowing 72% completion percentage in their games, even though they were a very highly ranked defense at the time. They were allowing a lot of catches. So, and the Bills were only able to drop 14 on them. So I don't know if it was the weather conditions. I don't know if it's certain things that were going on with scheme, and we could talk about that later. But I really hope the Buffalo Bills can. If it seems that the secondary is really banged up, which it looks like it is, the Bills being very pass happy lately, it seems like a formula that could work for them in this game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that I think we saw kind of last game was the Bills used a lot of play action. Right, it was probably a little bit more play action than we've seen throughout the entire season so far. And I think one of the reasons you can use play action because the Bills are averaging like 4.8 yards per carry, right? So they're really top in the league. I think in yards per carry, they're fifth or seventh. It's real close. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they're definitely far within the top 10. And even though they're not running the ball a ton, the fear of the run is definitely there. But I think, the book is starting to come out of the fact that, the Bills look like they're going to run out of sets a lot, right? But if there's one thing that I know and that I love, it's Nigel Bradham. who that man does not know a cutback lane to save his life. Now, unfortunately, he was out against Dallas, but I'm hoping he's back because I would love to see old Nigel Bradham against Devin Singletary. Because Devin Singletary, just that he's not going to mind the cutback lane, and hopefully we see more than 7 touches for Devin Singletary next game.
And so that's funny because that's a follow-up question too. And like what's up with the lack of usage with Devin Singletary? Like, why is he not getting the touches? Now, I definitely understand that this was his first game back from a hamstring injury, but what are we saving him for?
Well, I think
that's something that I've been trying to figure out for.
Well, I think the thing about it is we had actually cut an episode. Paul was the one that brought this up. So, Paul, do you want to explain it, or do you want me to go through the laundry list of Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara?
It's the funny thing is, they're often Mario's like, Paul, do you want to review this point? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. This one I actually do.
Oh, okay.
So, I actually remember this point. So here, it's like if you take a look at the scope of a rookie season, right? So a rookie season starts at the start of the college season, right? So he runs his whole. Let's just use Devin Singletary as an example, right? Runs his entire senior season. As soon as the senior season's over with, he starts training for the combine, right? Or starts training for the offseason program for the whole draft process, because you are in full production mode there, right? Because you're going to have pro day, you're going to have a pro day, you're going to have scouting combines, you might have individual team workouts. So you got a lot of stuff going on. You're really nonstop until the draft. And once the draft hits, you're still nonstop, right? Because now you're getting into team facilities. Now you're going to find teammates and go work out and try and build some team chemistry with some of the guys on your team that are practicing in the offseason. And then you start into OTAs. And then as soon as OTAs start, your season starts, right? So if you take a look at a rookie's, scope, Devin Singletary, his season started last year in college. So if you look at guys like Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt is a good example. Guys who took a ton of work at the running back position early in their rookie seasons, they straight burn out. But then you go back and you look at Alvin Kamara. He's a great example. Nick Chubb's another example. Mm-hmm. You're seeing less negative long-term effects for those players when they take a break for a little bit. Like if you look right now to the rest of the season, it's the length of a college football season. We've officially passed, right? Because Singletary was averaging five touches a game prior to last game. He only got 7 touches last game. So touches are really low, right? So he's got a college season left. And that's what his body's really built to right now is that college season. So I really feel like the Bills are holding back on Devin Singletary because of that rookie burnout. It's a real thing. They know it's a real thing. And I think there's a lot of examples that say that it's something to be fearful of.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I am just ready to see some production out of him. I mean, he has shown nothing but, super positive results from once he has touched the ball. And I mean, I'm just ready for it. One thing that I was kind of looking at, like while we were talking about with the Eagles, while they're weak in the secondary, they sort of make up for in their run defense. So I'm actually interested to see if Frank and then Devin will still be able to have that same type of production that they have had so far this season. I know that the Eagles' pass rush is weak, their secondary is weak, but their run defense is where they make up for it. So I'm really not sure what we'll do with that.
Well, you got Barnett, Graham, Jernigan, and Cox up there are the 4 horses that man that line. And I think the Buffalo Bills, the offensive line, while they graded really well coming into this season in pass protection in previous seasons, is that offensive linemen by and large they just want to run block anyway. They would rather go off the ball. And the scheme, some of the schemes with the run game, which I like very much, is that you always got Morse pulling, you got Feliciano pulling, you got Spain coming out in space, and those guys getting out in space at 300 plus, those guys are animals. And Dable, as much of the things that I don't like that he does within the passing game itself, he really designs really good, run plays for Gore, for Singletary, for even if Yeldon's in there. You can't get that coaching job at Alabama unless you have a good run game plan. So, he was there for a year and all that. So I really think that, it's always, you zigged when I thought you were going to zag on that one. If they think that the strong point of the Eagles is the defensive line, they might test it early. They might come out of the gate trying to run the ball and trying to establish the run, because one of the things that the Bills do really well, that Allen does really well, is play action. You can't run the play action unless you can establish the run early in the game. So it could be something that they end up trying to test early on. But Dan, let me ask you, after watching 6 games of this Buffalo Bills offense, usually an offense will have an identity. What do you see an identity? Like, what is this offense? What's the offensive identity of this team? I'm struggling to find it myself. I was wondering if you had any insight on that.
You know, man, that's definitely a fantastic question. I mean, whatever our identity is, it doesn't come out until the fourth quarter. That's for sure. 110%. Right. Exactly. But I mean, one thing that I've always said is you can make these criticisms. You can see that there's, there are holes within our offense. I mean, I would be lying to you guys to say that I didn't believe that. But I mean, I think that really when it comes down to it, we have improved significantly. Back, he's making better decisions. Let's say that we're just looking at the Miami game and stuff like that. So like, I mean, like that was finally no turnovers right there. I feel like we're not seeing our true potential, not unless we're down 10 points. Like that's the thing. Like, I'm honestly thinking about just suggesting just to automatically give our opponent 7 points before the game even starts, because so that's legit.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we should start the game with an onside kick. Is that
basically? Basically, we might as well. I mean, still want to see the rush mixed in there and stuff along those lines. But I mean, it's nice. I mean, I'm super happy we're 5-1. And I mean, one thing that I was saying a long time ago too was you'll see like ESPN and some more like the media talking heads and stuff along those lines. Like they're acting like these fourth quarter comebacks are a sign of a bad team. But you were to switch the Buffalo Bills name with a team like the Patriots or the Seahawks or the Niners, then you would see ESPN like completely just praising them, being like, oh, they're never going to lose. You can never count them out. But for some reason, I mean, it's just, it's just not the same with Buffalo.
Yeah, the Bills are in a kind of a precarious situation, right? Because if you look at the records of all the teams that they've played, all the teams right now have like 187 win percentage. Like it's like 1.87 win percentage. Just terrible, right? But then you go ahead and you look at Josh Allen's numbers in the fourth quarter. And just in the fourth quarter alone, he's got 139.6 quarterback rating, right? It's just absurd, just absolutely absurd. He's been sacked 1 time in the fourth quarter all season, whereas the rest of the game, he's been sacked 6 times in the first quarter, 4 times in the second quarter, 4 times in the third quarter. He has no passing touchdowns in the third quarter, yet he's got 4 in the fourth quarter. His completion percentage is 58% in the third quarter, yet it jumps 10% to 68% in the fourth quarter. There's something there, and I don't know what it is, but I want to ask a question. Is the trade deadline's coming up, right? Ooh. Is there something that this team should be doing to improve either the offense or the defensive side of the football? Because we saw a lot of trades happen just in the last couple of days. So is there anything here that if you're the Bills, are you a player away? Who do you think it is, and what do you think you should be doing to try and acquire one?
I'm probably the only Bills personality, maybe aside from you guys, that don't believe that we need a wide receiver. I watch your stuff, so I know that. I don't think that we need a receiver. I think we're pretty stacked. I just think that we need to start utilizing people besides John Brown, especially more Beasley, and then maybe Duke, and then Robert Foster, or wherever the hell he's been this season. But really, when it comes down to it, I was sort of looking at that one defensive end from the Jaguars. I don't even want to try to pronounce his name.
It begins with an N. NK.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah.
Jaguars defensive.
It's weird to see what's going on because you mentioned his name earlier.
Yannick Ngakoue.
That's it.
But I mean, and so I know that this is an offensive episode, but I mean, really when it comes down to it, as far as our pass rush is concerned, our secondary is amazing, but I mean, like, we're just not putting pressure on the quarterback at all. And I mean, we're not seeing the sacks that we need to be seeing right now. So I think that could be fantastic. And then if not that, then we know that this would come with a lot of baggage, but wouldn't mind scooping up Trent from the Redskins either. Just to beef up that O-line.
Yeah, I remember during our post game, I believe you had come in and mentioned Trent Williams from the Redskins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
and that creates a little bit of a rift, right? So if you're looking across the offensive line, because your captain is Deion Dawkins. Now, is Deion Dawkins your captain because only he and Josh Allen are the returning offensive players from last year? I don't know, but I'm willing to think that might have something to do with it. Mario brought that up, and I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's probably a very plausible reason that he's the captain. But you bring in Trent Williams and you immediately displace Deion Dawkins. Now, are you really displacing Deion Dawkins? No, it's you'd find a home for him, right? I don't think Quentin Spain is your inside long-term answer at left guard. He's only on a one-year deal. So you bring in Trent Williams, you're looking at a multi-year commitment to him. And he makes your football team better. Now, does that give Josh Allen the time that he needs? Josh Allen is getting, I don't know, man. I think he's getting enough time to make throws. Amar, do you agree, disagree on that?
I've after recently having access to film I didn't really have access to, I've been able to break down 4 of the games, and a lot of times Allen will have a nice little pocket in front of him, but and I almost said Ghost of Christmas Past, or else I'd be talking about Darnold. But he's starting to get, he has that internal clock, as all quarterbacks do in his head. So when that clock starts to tick down about when he's supposed to get the ball out of his hands, and especially some of the experiences that he had last year, he's starting to get a little bit of happy feet. And I don't want anybody in Don Mafia to misconstrue my statement. I'm not saying that Allen's scared back there. What I'm saying is that he gets at 1,001, 1,002. He's back there with the ball. He needs to get the ball out of his hands. He knows that. But some of them pockets have been forming around him and have been pretty nice that he doesn't automatically have to get out of there like he did in 2018. So he could sit back there in the pocket and throw. So some of the plays that he's had, I can name 5 off the top of my head, where he had a clean pocket, but then he just started to run outside of the pocket and not step up, and he ended up running into trouble or throwing the ball out of bounds, or he got hit and took an unnecessary hit that he didn't have to take. So I think a lot of that will come with time with him, because you look at the career of this kid. He was at Wyoming that didn't have a very good line. The first year he comes in the pros, he doesn't have a very good line. Now, when he's starting to see guys that are around him, he gets out of there. So I think once his progressions and a lot of the things start to improve with his in-game play, I think a lot of those things, you'll see the pocket get even better. I mean, just going on, he's got a 10% better completion percentage this year than he did last year. That's definitely helping the offensive line in their production, because he's getting the ball out of his hands. I don't know if that's scheme. I don't know if that's him starting to understand what he needs to do and where his first, second, third reads are. But that's definitely been helping him. And, a Trent Williams coming here you'd probably have to give Dawkins to Washington, because they're trying to get younger. And if they unload a contract like Williams, they could take Dawkins and not have to pay him as much, but you got a young piece there now. So I think the only way that works is like Paul said, you're going to create an internal rift if you bring Trent Williams on this team, unless Dawkins is gone. So, I mean, that's just I mean, they're really conscious of how that locker room is and how everybody's stable in that locker room. So,
of course,
it's just an interesting piece.
And so now I'm curious to actually see, what is y'all's ideal target during the trade deadline?
If I had to pick one player for the Buffalo Bills to pick up during the trade deadline, I don't know, because it's funny you mentioned a defensive player from Jacksonville, yet the defense is ranked 3rd in the NFL, but you'd still get a guy. You still get an extra guy for you. The two things that I find with trouble at the trade deadline is that if you get a player, who are you going to inactivate or trade or get rid of? This team has been built from the foundation up. I think there's only 3 players here that were here during the previous regime. So they've completely flipped the roster of their guys. Now, they don't want to give up on their guys as quick. So one guy that I would pick, not as a trade, but I would activate, is Robert Foster, because he changes the whole dynamic of your offense. So
very true.
I don't know. I may have stolen Paul's. I don't know if I did or not.
No. So no, you didn't. So I mean, I'm looking at this from a little bit of a different perspective, right? Because while I think you can improve your offense through, free agency and trade, and the Bills have completely remade their offense this offseason. So, I mean, they've done a phenomenal job just even keeping their offense where it is. Like, we would have begged for an offense like this last season. Mm-hmm. I really, this last game showed me how weak they are at linebacker when Matt Milano's not on the field. Right. Yeah. And that was scary to me. That was big time scary. So I just to kind of look up and down at linebackers. That's where I would start. Is you start looking at those outside linebackers, maybe bringing up another guy who's got inside linebacker experience that a team's looking to kind of get rid of because of a salary cap situation. I know a lot of people are talking Von Miller, but I know Denver's selling, but I mean that's a big sell because that's a big contract. That's a huge contract. It's like $17 million a year.
Oh.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But Alec Ogletree with the Giants, like he'd be a perfect example of a guy who's going to be a free agent in 2022. The Giants are in sell mode right now because they're not going anywhere for the next year to two. You've already got a relationship with Gettleman with the Giants, so Ogletree makes sense to me. But outside of that, you're going to start splitting hairs. You're going to be paying starter money for somebody who you're only looking to play 40% of snaps. I mean, the Bills have the salary cap space, but I just don't see them pulling the trigger on any big names, man. I just don't. That's not Brandon Beane. It's just not Brandon
Beane. And so honestly, I wouldn't even be opposed if we didn't make any moves either. And I mean, there's like one or two players that, we could use and I would be excited about. But I mean, I would still be fine with just, saving that cap space and just using what we have because, I mean, we're 5-1. I mean, we're doing something that's right. So, I mean, I'd be fine with waiting until the offseason for free agency and just, stocking up those draft picks and just really building, success for this franchise for, the foreseeable future. So, I mean, that's definitely something. But, so, I mean, we definitely have a big game coming up on Sunday. I think this is going to be telling on our season. I mean, I feel like I've said this for the past like 3 or 4 weeks that this game is going to determine how we're going to be the rest of the year. And I don't know.
Well, the one thing I got to ask you, Dan, is that are you going to go and eat at the same place and do the same things that you did you didn't do during the New England game?
Yes, man. 110%. 110%. The only time that we lost was when I was in Buffalo. So, I mean, maybe I might not come up to Buffalo again and watch it. And so I legitimately go to the same bar and I sit at the same seat and I order the same things. And look at that. We are 5-0 when I am at that place, and that's where I'm going to be the rest of the season. But I mean,
and Dan, I heard a lot of people say the Bills' schedule gets easier from here on out. I respectfully kind of disagree. Like the Eagles game is a real test, right? You do have Washington coming up, I don't think anybody's really afraid of that. But the Browns have played a nasty schedule, like a straight nasty schedule. I think a lot of people are kind of floating on the Browns game. They're like, Cleveland's not very good. I don't know what the Bills' record would be if they had played the Browns' schedule at the beginning of the season. They had a rough go.
That's true.
But 3 of the next 4 games are crazy critical. So you got to keep your guys clear of injury as much as you can. You got to try and stay as healthy as much as possible. But the Eagles game is a start of 2 bullets in the gun that are really dangerous. You're right. Yeah. Every week is pinnacle to these Bills. I'm not too worried about Washington, right?
No.
But the Eagles and the Browns games, they're scary games to walk into.
Yeah. And so it's definitely going to be tough, too, because that's when Kareem Hunt gets back. He is back when we play the Browns. So, I mean, that could open up their offense as well.
Unless you're worried about him on special teams, I don't really think it's going to be a big deal. He's not taking any handouts from Chubbs.
Yeah, for sure.
No, but the thing about it is that I see happening, and it's almost like a catch-22 for the Buffalo Bills because if they end up losing to the Eagles, it's like, okay, see, they played a powder puff schedule. Look what happened, and they end up losing to the Eagles. But if they end up beating the Eagles, it was like, well, the Eagles got smacked by Dallas, or Dallas will be your first test. And if the Bills happen to get by Dallas, they're going to be like, well, the Ravens, you know what I mean? You got to play the Ravens. I don't know if they play the Ravens before or after. I can't remember the schedule, but
they play the Ravens after.
They play the Ravens after. So, you got to play the Ravens then, and all that. So it's really tough for the Buffalo Bills. Now, that they're going to find themselves on the other side of the fence that they've never been on in quite some time is the fact that they're the hunted. Usually they're the underdog team coming in. No one expects them to win. Now they're the hunters coming out, and if the trick play on the first play of the game by the Miami Dolphins and the trick play of the fake field goal didn't tell you that some of these teams that they play that have nothing to play for, they're going to be throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks against the Buffalo Bills. So they have to be on high alert for anything that happens in these games, and because it's weird because it's usually the Bills on the other side of that. So it's definitely going to be definitely a turn for how fans watch these games coming up. They're like, okay, well, the Bills are in the driver's seat now. How do they handle being in the driver's seat rather than the team that's always trying to play catch up? So it's going to be interesting to see. So Dan, I'm curious about your score prediction for the game on Sunday.
Oh man, this is tough. This is tough because I got roasted in the comments last week with my with the preview video that I did on the Miami Dolphins. So
it wasn't the title that you said the Bills were going to embarrass them. So
I know.
You telling me the score prediction didn't go so well. I can see why that happened.
Yeah, I know exactly. That was the title. I mean, next time I might be a little more, yeah. Say that it goes up to it. I want to say 35-14. We win.
I like it.
I do. I think that this is going to be the most efficient game that we play on offense for the entire season. I think that we're finally going to figure it out because of number one, that secondary, man. I mean, I just can't get away from it. It's terrible. And then their pass rush is not too good either. And I think as long as you give Josh enough time in the pocket and as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, I think that we're going to be able to move the ball. And I mean, as far as the way that our defense played last week, that was a fluke. I honestly think that they were just rusty right after the bye week and was a divisional game. I think that our defense is going to be back. And I think that we are going to shut them down for the most part, in my opinion.
All right, Paul, what do you got?
Now, what about y'all?
Bud?
So, I mean, I'm taking this one with a little bit of a grain of salt, right? Because if you're going to lose a game, losing an NFC game isn't really all that bad, right? Mm-hmm. So you win every AFC game, you make the playoffs, right? Like that's just how it works. So I'm looking at this one being a little bit tighter to the vest. I'm thinking 24-17 Buffalo. I think it's a little bit closer.
I like that.
You dirty.
Did I steal your score?
Yes, that's exactly. I said the Bills. I think that the Bills will score more than 20, and they'll hold the Eagles under 20. So I mean, any kind of score for that, I'll go 23. I'll go 23-14 then. I mean, because I just think this.
Did you just Prices Right me?
I just did.
You just went with the dollar.
Well, I mean, we have a bet going on our channel because Paul took the over against the Miami Dolphins. We set the bar at 14, and Paul said that they would beat him by more than 14, and I said less. So I was kind of preparing for a lackluster performance, although I never showed that on the outside. I thought they were going to kill him too, Dan. I don't know why they didn't. It's so bad.
Yeah, I know, man. It was my mistake. Holy hell. Oh, man. Well, hey, Don Mafia, thank you again for tuning in to this very special edition of the Don Mafia Report. Like I said, if you have not subscribed to Hashtag Sports, do that right now. They really know their shit. Trust me on that. And then this was the offensive episode, and the defensive episode is going to be on their channel, so you're going to have to subscribe to them. Besides that, guys, thank you for tuning in to yet another edition of the Don Mafia Report, and we'll see you next time.